After some years, the snake boy became the king of Echo Kingdom. He married 3 different wives, but the wives found it difficult to get pregnant. The king waited to see if things would change and become better, but things were all the same. After some years, the king decided to marry 20 more wives to see if one of them could just bear him a child, but things were still all the same. All 20 wives still never got pregnant. This made the king so worried. Is it that a snake child cannot impregnate a human being? The king always asked himself in a sad and worried voice. Some years later, the king married another 10 wives. But to the king's and everyone's surprise, one of the king's 10 new wives got pregnant. Her name was Amina. Everyone in the kingdom was so happy, saying, "Finally, finally, our king will have a child." The king called the whole kingdom for a celebration in his palace. They ate and drank. Everyone was happy. The king took good care of Amina and loved her more than his other wives. But on the day Amina wanted to give birth, everyone in the kingdom was already in front of the palace. They were dancing and drumming. They were all singing a joyful song. The king was so happy to see his people coming to celebrate with him. The king joyfully came outside and went to the middle of the villagers to celebrate with them. The king was drumming and dancing with them. While they were all singing and drumming, suddenly they heard people shouting inside the palace. Everyone in the palace was running outside. The king was shocked and didn't know what was happening. He quickly ran to the labor room to see what had happened to the queen. On getting to the labor room, he saw the queen looking very weak. Beside her, there was a baby with a human body and a snake head. The king was so happy that he finally had a child. He carried the baby joyfully, but after some moments, he felt so sad because he knew the villagers would not be happy with a baby with a snake head and human body. Some days after, the villagers started whispering among themselves. Some said, "If we don't act fast and the new king's child grows up, he will become a giant snake and kill all of us." Some also said, "If care is not taken, our peaceful land will become the most dangerous land in the coming years. We will tell the king to kill the baby, not to allow danger into our land." The villagers all agreed between themselves. The next day, everyone in the village gathered in front of the palace to see the king. They never informed the king before coming. The king was surprised to see his people in front of his palace. "Our king, for peace to continue to reign in our kingdom, for us never to be expecting danger in the future, we have concluded to kill the newborn baby because he is born with a snake head. And this will bring a great calamity to our kingdom in coming years," the villagers said. The king was not surprised because he knew this would surely happen. He responded calmly, "My people, don't let us do this. You know it has been years since your king has been looking for a child. I have married more than 30 wives, and none could bear me a child except Amina, the only child I have. You want to kill him? Don't worry, I will train the child to be a good boy. He will be loved by you all, I promise you." The villagers felt concerned with the king's words and believed what the king said. They knew the king understood the snakes better, so the king should be able to control his child to be good and not to harm the villagers. The villagers all left the palace and went back to their various houses. When the snake prince became 10 years old, he noticed no one could move closer to him except his father and his mother, the queen. Whenever he appeared to the villagers, they would all run. He could not talk to anybody, and he could not move closer to anyone. He noticed the villagers didn't like him, but he didn't know why. When the villagers noticed the little prince was coming, they would all run. One day, the prince cried to his father, the king, and said, "Father, why are people running away from me whenever they see me? I don't have any friends to play with, and the villagers don't like to see me. And again, why do I have a snake head and a human body?" The king felt his son's pain. He replied and said, "My son, we are from the snake generation. That is why this is happening to you. We will always be different. Don't worry, everything will be fine, I promise." "Snake generation?" the prince asked, looking so confused, and the king nodded and said, "Yes, my son, snake generation." One day the prince was on top of a mango tree. He wanted to pluck a mango and eat it. When he was on the tree, 2 villagers came under the tree, whispering to themselves. One of them said, "If the prince knows our warriors are the ones who killed the whole snake generation in the forest, he will be angry and he will take revenge." The other villager responded and said, "That was why we said we should kill the prince when he was still a baby." But the king insisted and said no to our decision. The prince heard the whole conversation. It was at this time that the prince understood why his father said they were from the snake generation. The prince now knew why he had a snake head and why the villagers didn't like him. Some days later, the villagers started to notice that their people were dying one by one with bloodstains on their bodies. They thought it was a wild animal that always came into the village at night to attack their people. Another day, another dead body would be found on the floor again with bloodstains. The villagers started wondering and never knew what was actually causing this. No one suspected the prince except the village warriors. The warriors knew it was not possible for a wild animal to always come into the village at night almost every day to kill their people. The two warriors suspected the prince and started monitoring the prince's movements. One night, when everyone was asleep, the two warriors saw the prince sneaking out of the palace. The two warriors quickly hid themselves so the prince wouldn't see them. The two warriors followed the prince, and suddenly the prince stopped and entered into a woman's hut. This woman was a widow. She lived alone. She had lost her husband some years ago. The two warriors didn't know what the prince was doing inside the woman's hut. But suddenly, the two warriors saw the prince moving out of the woman's hut with blood in his mouth. With this, the warriors knew the prince had killed the widow silently. Immediately, the warriors noticed this. They started shouting in a very loud voice, "The prince is the killer! The prince is the killer!" The villagers heard this. They all woke up and ran outside to see what was going on. The villagers saw the little prince with bloodstains in his mouth. Some of the villagers quickly ran into the woman's hut and saw the woman lying dead on the floor with bloodstains on her body. The villagers ran after the little prince and caught him. They wanted to kill the little prince instantly, but they didn't want to do so without informing the king. They took the prince to the king's palace. On getting to the king's palace, one of the villagers had run to the king's palace to tell the king what happened. The king was already standing in front of the palace, expecting the villagers. The whole kingdom arrived angrily at the palace with the prince and saw that their king was already standing in front of the palace. "Our king, this is what we were avoiding when we told you to kill this boy when he was still a baby. The prince has been killing our people one by one, and we will not open our eyes and allow him to kill us all before we take action. We have decided to kill the prince, but we have to inform our king before we do so. That is why we came to you." The king was unhappy with what the villagers had said. Tears were dropping out of the king's eyes. "I know my boy has done wrong, but please don't kill my only child," the king said with tears dropping from his eyes. The villagers felt the king's pain. When they saw that their king was crying, they didn't know what to do again. So the villagers asked, "Our king, what do you want us to do now?" The king answered, "I have a suggestion. I will tell my warriors to cage the prince. He will be locked in a cage inside the palace, so the prince will not be able to go outside to harm our people again." The villagers agreed with the king's suggestion, thinking it was a good idea. The little prince was locked in a cage in the palace. After some months in the cage, the prince started thinking about his whole life. How long will I be caged? Will I be in this cage forever? When will I be free? The prince came up with an idea and said to himself, "Since snakes belong to the forest, I think I should find my way to the forest. If the villagers rejected me, I know the forest will never do so." One night, the little prince killed the warrior that was on duty to secure him. The prince escaped and ran to the forest. The next morning, the king and the villagers could not find the prince. The villagers were very happy that the little prince was gone. The king was unhappy. He felt so sad because he couldn't find his only son anymore. The villagers pretended also not to be happy because their king was not happy. "Don't worry, our king. The prince will surely come back, we pray." After some weeks, the king started sending his warriors to the forest to look for his son. But the warriors would never reach the forest. They would return to the palace and lie to the king that the prince was nowhere to be found in the forest. As the days went by, day after day and moon after moon, the little prince grew up and became a man. The forest became a lonely place for him to stay. He thought he would find people like him in the forest, but he could not find anyone. Only what he could see was the skeletons of the dead snakes. This made the prince remember what the two villagers were whispering about when he was on the mango tree the other day. Echo Kingdom warriors had killed a whole generation of the snakes. Why did my father support them to do this? What had the snakes done to them? Echo Kingdom has attacked where I belong and killed them all. And they also hated me for no reason. They will surely pay for this, the prince said to himself in an angry voice. Some months later, the prince decided to go back to Echo Kingdom. He planned to kill his father and take over the throne. He planned to be the king of Echo Kingdom and make them suffer for what they had done. One night, when the king was standing outside of his palace, he saw his son, the prince, from a distance moving closer to the palace. He was looking so dirty. His father welcomed him. "My prince, where have you been? We have been looking for you. I am sorry for what happened the last time. It will never happen again. I will never allow them to lock you inside a cage again." "I am sorry, my prince," the king said with a gentle and soft voice. "My father, I am also sorry. I have learned from my mistake. I promise never to harm the villagers again." That night, when everyone was asleep, the prince sneaked inside the king's room and killed his father. No one knew the king was dead, and none of the villagers knew the prince was back. That night, the prince took over the throne and became the king of Echo Kingdom. "Father, why are people running away from me whenever they see me?" That was why we said we should kill the prince when he was still a baby. But the king insisted and said no to our decision. "Since snakes belong to the forest, I think I should find my way to the forest. If the villagers rejected me, I know the forest will never do so." After the prince had killed his father, the king, on the second morning, the villagers and the palace guards were shocked and surprised to see the prince sitting on the throne and their king lying dead in front of him. The prince laughed and said to the villagers, "Your biggest enemy is now your king. My father betrayed the snakes because of you, and he was ruling your kingdom with peace. But I have come back to betray my father and take away the peace from you. My father told me we are from the snake generation. Your warriors and soldiers have attacked and killed the whole generation of the snakes, and you will surely pay for this." From that day, Echo Kingdom, which was known as a peaceful village, changed and turned into the most dangerous village. The farmers cried because their farms became the king's farms. The men cried because their wives became the king's wives. And the children cried because they could never eat and be satisfied like before again. The whole village suffered from the hands of the bad king. None of the men in the village had a single wife with them again, except a man called Tunde. The king rejected Lola, Tunde's wife, because she was known in the village as a woman that could never give birth again. Tunde was the only man that was left with a wife in the village. All the villagers' wives had all become the king's wives. The men in the village were all working very hard in the king's farm. One day, 3 out of the villagers' wives the king married got pregnant for the king. The day one of the pregnant wives delivered, she never delivered a human baby. She gave birth to a little snake. The king was so happy. The king prayed that more of this should continue to happen. The king prayed that all his children should be snakes. He wanted to give birth to as many snakes as possible. The following month, when the second pregnant wife wanted to give birth, she also gave birth to a snake. The king's joy became more and more after the third pregnant wife also delivered a snake. If I could impregnate 3 women and they all gave birth to snakes, that means Echo Kingdom can be turned into a snake kingdom, the kingdom where human beings will never exist again. From today on, I will impregnate as many women as possible. I know they will all give birth to snakes, and the snake world will return back to life again." The villagers cried every day and night because they knew no one could help them out of this. If we had known then, we should not have allowed the snake boy to be our king. The problem we faced in those days is far less than this. Who will save us now? The villagers cried and blamed themselves. After a year, the king impregnated 100 women out of his wives, but some of the women he impregnated gave birth to human babies. The king was never happy with this. He ordered his guards to kill the human babies and leave the snake ones. The following day, the king called all of his wives and the whole kingdom and said, "No human baby will be allowed in my kingdom again. If I can give birth to human babies and tell my guards to kill them all, nobody is excluded. Very soon, my kingdom will no longer be for human beings, but for only the snakes alone. A day is coming when no human being will be found in my kingdom again. And again, if anyone is caught with a human baby, the person will be killed instantly. If you give birth to a human baby, you should kill it with your own hands before anyone knows." The king faced his wives and said this to them. The villagers were shocked when they heard this because they never saw this coming. They never knew the wickedness of their king would be up to this. From that day on, no human baby existed in Echo Kingdom again. When the women gave birth, they would kill the baby with their hands even before anyone knew. The king continued to impregnate more women and give birth to more snakes. One day, Tunde's wife, Lola, got pregnant. The woman the villagers knew was the woman that could never give birth again. Her pregnancy was just 2 weeks old. Why am I now pregnant exactly at the time the kingdom doesn't want any baby to exist again? Lola said to herself. She never allowed her husband to know she was pregnant because her husband would never be in support of it. Her husband never wanted to be killed. She knew her husband would kill the baby immediately after she gave birth. Her husband would never want to do what would make the king kill him. One afternoon, Lola's husband came home and could not find his wife. He searched and looked for her everywhere in the village, but he could not find her. Lola had left the village and run to where no one knew. She left the village and ran into the forest. By this time, her pregnancy was already 5 months when she ran into the forest. She never allowed anyone in the village to discover or know she was pregnant. Lola started living in the forest. One day when Lola was walking around in the forest, she saw a very big black book on the floor. A big snake was drawn on the front of the book. The book was called The Secret Life of the Snakes. All that was written in this book was how to kill and control the snakes. The book was very powerful and easy to read. Lola carried the book. By this time, her pregnancy was already 8 months. After some days, Lola read the whole book and understood it. That means with this book, Echo Kingdom can be saved and delivered from the hands of the bad king. Should I go back to Echo Kingdom with this book to deliver them? What if this book does not work? I will be killed instantly. No, I am afraid. I can't do this, Lola said to herself. The following month, Lola went into labor and gave birth to a baby boy. This boy was not just an ordinary baby boy. The boy deserved to be a king. This boy was full of wisdom and understanding. Lola named the baby Segun. As the days turned into nights and nights into days, Echo Kingdom changed and became the kingdom of snakes as the king had planned. The king was happy that his dream had finally come true. The kingdom was full of snakes. The snakes grew up to become big snakes. They got married and gave birth to more snakes. Echo villagers were now turned into slaves. The snakes would punish the villagers and command them to do whatever they said. When Segun turned 15 years old, Lola, his mother, believed in him so much and loved him a lot. Lola told him the story of Echo Kingdom, how the Snake Prince betrayed his father and took over the throne to take away the peace of the kingdom. Lola gave the Book of the Snakes to her son to read. Segun read the book and understood it. Segun understood the book more than his mother did. He knew this book was not just a book, but a powerful book. One day, a terrible problem fell upon the king of the snakes in Echo Kingdom. The king could not sleep. For the past month, he would just sit on his bed with his eyes open until daybreak. This problem was very big for anyone to solve, and this gave the whole Snake Kingdom serious concern. Segun knew if he appeared in Echo Kingdom without a good plan, the snakes might kill him, and Echo villagers would remain and die in this problem. I will have to plan myself well, Segun said to himself. Segun built a fake snake head and glued it to his forehead. He painted his face like an old man and started his journey to Echo Kingdom. Before leaving, he told his mother never to worry. I am going with a powerful book and also with my wisdom, and I know I will surely be successful with my plans. I will come back for you when everything is fine. Segun hugged his mother with a sorrowful face and left. When Segun got to Echo Kingdom, all eyes were on him. The snakes were surprised to see someone that looked exactly like their king, a man with a human body and a snake head. The gods have sent me to your kingdom. I have come to see your king, Segun said. Segun was taken to the king by the snakes. When the king saw Segun, he was also surprised to see someone that had a snake head exactly like him. The gods have sent me to your kingdom. If you have any problem, tell me. And all the problems will be solved, Segun said to the king. I have not been sleeping for months, and no one could solve this problem for me. When Segun heard this, he immediately opened a page in the snake book he carried. He read the page to the king. Before Segun finished reading the page, the king was already sleeping. The whole snakes were surprised to see this. When the king woke up, he became so very happy. From the day the king started sleeping, the king loved Segun so much. He gave him the respect he had never given to anyone before. Whatever Segun said was what the king would command the snakes to do. One day, Segun came to the king and said to the king, "The gods showed me a vision about your kingdom. A heavy rain with fire wants to fall from the heavens. This rain will be heavy and full of fire, and this fire will destroy many things. Many lives will be lost, and a lot of things will be damaged." The king was shocked to hear this because he believed whatever Segun said would surely happen. "Please, what will be the solution?" the king asked. "Tell your people to build a very big house. This house will be big and very strong so that nothing will be able to destroy it. Also, make sure the doors are very strong so that nothing will be able to open it. The whole kingdom will be locked inside. When the rain stops, the door of the building will be opened for you by the gods, and you will all be saved," Segun said to the king. But the king said, "No, only the snakes will be allowed to enter the big house. The human beings will be left outside to die. My plan was that a day is coming when no human being will exist in my kingdom again. This day will be that day. All the human beings will die outside alone." Segun agreed with the king's decision. The following day, the king ordered the snakes and the villagers to start building the big house. This house was built for 200 days. The house was very strong, and so were the doors. Nothing could go in or come out of it. After the snakes and the villagers finished building the big house, on the third day, Segun came to the king and said, "My king, in the next 3 days, the heavy rain with fire will start falling. You should all start preparing to enter the big house." Instantly, the king ordered the snakes to start packing their things, and they should all go into the big house. And the snakes all did so. The king was the last person to enter the house. When he wanted to enter, he asked Segun, "Are you not coming inside with us?" But Segun responded and said, "The gods have not instructed me to do so. Don't worry, I will be safe. The gods will protect me." When the snakes and the king were all inside, the next step was to close the heavy door. No one could close this door because the door was so heavy. The whole villagers who were outside could not close it. Then Segun opened a page in the book in his hand and read it. Instantly, the door started closing. The door was locked and closed. Nothing could open this door again. The only thing that could open this door again was the Book of the Snakes, and this book was held by Segun. After the door was closed, Segun took off the fake snake on his head and shouted, "Echo Kingdom, let's be happy because our biggest enemies are all gone." The villagers were surprised because they thought Segun was also a snake. They never knew he was their savior. They all rejoiced because they never thought a miracle like this would ever happen to them. Segun went back to pick up his mother. The villagers' wives returned to them, and the peace of the kingdom was restored. Nothing like snakes again. After many days without water and food, the snakes all died. The journey of snake and human can never be successful because God has made the two enemies since the world was made. The snakes have nothing to do with humans, and humans have nothing to do with snakes. If you enjoyed this story, I'm certain you'll enjoy the next one showing on your screen right now. Please click on the thumbnail to watch the next story. I'd appreciate your support. Like this video, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to my channel. See you in my next story. Bye.